Most of the atoms in your body are older than the sun, older than the oldest star you can find anywhere in tonight's sky. Older, in fact, than starlight itself. Not a few of them, not some exotic fraction tucked away in your bones. Most of them. The plain, ordinary majority of you. You've heard the beautiful line that you are made of stardust, that the iron in your blood and the calcium in your bones were forged in the hearts of dying stars. And it is true. It is one of the most wonderful facts we have. It rearranged how a whole generation thought about the night sky. The atoms in your hand really did pass through the core of a dying star. But it is only a thin sliver of the truth, because most of you, the majority of the atoms in your hand, your heart, the eyes reading these words, was never cooked inside any star at all. It is far, far older than that. It comes from something that happened before the first star in the entire universe ever caught fire. And once you find out where the bulk of your body actually comes from, the phrase, "we are made of stardust," is going to start feeling almost quaint. It's morning. You're standing at the kitchen sink, only half awake, and you fill a glass with water. Cold tap, nothing special. You drink it down in a few swallows and set the glass back on the counter. That's it, the most ordinary thing a person can do before they are properly awake. But hold that glass in your mind for a second. Water. 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 of oxygen, repeated a few septillion times over. You just poured a small private ocean of hydrogen down your throat, and your body will quietly stitch some of it into your blood and your cells without ever once consulting you about it. It happens millions of times a day, in everyone, everywhere, completely unnoticed. Now look at the hydrogen in particular. It is the simplest thing in all of chemistry. 1 proton, 1 electron, and nothing else. The lightest, plainest, most forgettable atom there is. You would never give it a second glance. It has no color, no smell, no drama. It just quietly does its job, holding your water together and your body up. If atoms had personalities, hydrogen would be the quiet one in the back of the room who turns out to have seen absolutely everything. And here is what makes it strange. The hydrogen feels new. The glass is new. The water came from this morning's tap, from a river, from last week's rain on the hills. Everything about the moment feels fresh, immediate, young. The cold of the water on your teeth, the light coming through the window, you standing there alive and present and brand new to the day. But the water is a costume, the river is a costume, the rain is a costume. Underneath all of it, the actual hydrogen atoms in that glass are almost unimaginably ancient. They are nearly as old as everything that exists. You drank it without a thought. Almost everyone does, because nobody ever stops to ask the simple, quietly devastating question hiding inside an ordinary glass of water. Nobody stops to ask how old the stuff they are made of actually is. We ask what we're made of all the time. Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, a little nitrogen, a pinch of everything else. We learn the list in school. We can recite it. But the list only ever tells you the names of the ingredients. It never tells you their age. And age, it turns out, is the part of the story that quietly breaks your whole picture of yourself. Think about how you usually imagine your own body. You think of it as new. You were born a few decades ago. Your cells are constantly dying and being replaced. Most of the cells in you right now did not exist a handful of years back. So it feels obvious. You are a recent arrival, a fresh little thing in a very old universe. Everything about being alive reinforces it. You grow, you change, you wear out. New feels like the truest word for what you are. But your cells are not your atoms. When a cell dies and a new one takes its place, it doesn't conjure fresh atoms out of thin air. It reuses the same old ones, pulls them from your food, your water, the air in your lungs, and stitches them into a new arrangement. The atoms themselves don't get replaced. They just get reshuffled. They are hand-me-downs, every single one of them, borrowed from the world, used for a while, and handed straight back when you're done. You don't own a single atom. You are renting all of them. So the real question, the one almost nobody asks, isn't what am I made of? It is, when were these atoms made and where? And when you finally go looking for that answer, you expect to land somewhere inside a star. The famous story practically promises you will. It's the whole reason the line is so comforting in the first place. You don't. Most of you lead somewhere far older and much, much stranger. Because the place most of your atoms actually come from only existed for a few minutes, and then it was gone. Forever, never to return. So let's tell the famous story properly, the one that earned all the poetry, the one whispered in planetariums and printed on bedroom posters. In the beginning, the universe was simple and, frankly, a little boring. Just hydrogen and helium, the two lightest elements, and almost nothing else. No carbon, no oxygen, no iron, none of the rich, heavy ingredients that planets and living bodies actually need. The early universe was a place where you could not possibly have existed, because most of the atoms you're built from did not yet exist. The ingredients for a person were simply missing from the menu. Then came the stars. And stars, it turns out, are factories. Deep in their cores, under crushing pressure and unthinkable heat, they slam light atoms together into heavier ones. Hydrogen fuses into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into oxygen, and on up the ladder, step by patient step, building the heavier elements one fusion at a time. This is real, demonstrated, hard-won physics. We can read it directly in the light of distant stars, see the fingerprint of each element written into the exact colors they shine. The factory is not a metaphor, it is measured, line by line. And when a massive star finally dies, it does not go quietly. It detonates, flinging everything it built out across space in a single, brilliant instant. Those scattered atoms drift for millions of years, mix into enormous clouds of gas, and eventually, some of that enriched cloud collapses under its own weight into a new solar system, a new sun, new planets. And on at least one of those planets, given enough time, you. Every step in that long chain has been checked and rechecked. None of it is in any doubt. So the carbon in your cells, the oxygen feeding your lungs, the iron riding in your blood, the calcium holding up your teeth, all of it really was forged inside stars that lived and died long before the Earth was even a possibility. You are, quite literally, the recycled ash of dead suns. It is the kind of fact that makes people fall in love with science. It turns a plain human body into a story about the sky. It is a genuinely gorgeous story, and it hands you one clean, confident sentence to carry away. Every atom in your body was cooked inside a star. That sentence feels like the satisfying end of the story. It's actually the exact spot where the real one finally begins. Because the universe did something far stranger than that. Most of your atoms were never inside a star at all. And they are older than every star that has ever shone, anywhere. Here is the part the poster quietly leaves out. Go back and count, not by weight, by the sheer number of atoms. If you tally up every single atom in your body, one by one, the most common one, by a wide margin, isn't carbon. It isn't oxygen. It's hydrogen. Around 63 out of every 100 atoms in you is a single, plain, hydrogen atom. Most of you, by the head count, is the lightest, simplest thing in all of existence. Not by a little, by a landslide. For every carbon atom you carry, you are carrying several plain hydrogens. And hydrogen is not made in stars. Stars devour hydrogen. They don't create it. They are net consumers of the stuff, never producers. Every star is slowly spending down a fortune it never once earned. Your hydrogen was made somewhere else entirely. In the first few minutes after the universe began. In a window that cracked open about 1 second in and slammed shut by the 3-minute mark, the entire infant cosmos behaved like one unthinkable furnace, and it forged nearly all the hydrogen that has ever existed. All of it, in minutes. And then the conditions changed, and that furnace switched off for good, never to fire again. It was a one-time event, the single largest manufacturing run in the entire history of reality, and it lasted about as long as a song. The first stars would not ignite for hundreds of millions of years after that. Hundreds of millions. So by the time the very first star anywhere in the universe flickered to life, the hydrogen that would one day become most of your body was already unspeakably ancient, already drifting in the dark, already there, waiting for stars that did not yet exist. Picture that gap for a second. The hydrogen sat ready for 100 million years and more before anything in the sky lit up to greet it. You are not mostly stardust. You are mostly something older. You are mostly the first 3 minutes of everything that is. Let's not talk about atoms in general anymore. Let's pick exactly one of yours. Reach up and touch your bottom lip. There's a trace of moisture there always is. and in that thin film of water sits a single hydrogen atom. We are going to choose that one, and we are going to run its whole life backward, like rewinding an old tape, and just watch where it goes. Every stop on the way is a real place it has actually been. Yesterday it sat in a glass of water. Last week, maybe in a cloud, or a reservoir, or a single drop of rain sliding down a window pane. Keep rewinding. A few years back it was deep in the ocean, rolling slowly in the dark under thousands of feet of cold seawater. For all you know, it spent 1,000 years locked in a glacier before that, frozen solid, going absolutely nowhere. Keep going. Before there were oceans at all, before there was an Earth to hold them, that atom was drifting inside an enormous freezing cloud of gas, the very same cloud that would one day collapse and become the sun, the planets, and everything standing on them. Keep rewinding. Now there is no solar system, no cloud yet, just that atom alone in the immense dark between everything, drifting for billions of years through almost perfect emptiness. And still, you are nowhere near the beginning. Keep going. The galaxies pull back in on themselves. The first stars wink out, going dark one by one across the sky. And your atom is still there, already old, already drifting. It watched the very first stars switch on like distant streetlights flickering alive across an empty city. It saw the lights come on. It did not come from the lights. Keep rewinding all the way back until the entire universe glows white and thick and impossibly hot, with no room left anywhere. And there, about 3 minutes from the absolute beginning of time, your atom is born. The proton at its heart snaps into being in a universe so young it has no stars, no galaxies, no planets, nothing at all, just light and heat and the very first particles finding each other. No Earth to come for billions of years yet, no you for billions more after that. Just this one atom, brand new, in a universe that is also brand new. That single atom on your lip has been almost everywhere there is. It has existed for nearly the entire history of the universe. And in just a moment, you are going to swallow, and it will go quietly back to the work of being you. So here is what I genuinely cannot settle in my own head. If that atom is 13.8 billion years old, and you are only a few decades old, then how old are you, really? Where do you even draw the line between the atom and the person? I don't know. Where would you draw it? Because the reason that atom could survive all of that unchanged, while whole stars were born and died around it, that reason is hiding in something as simple as a child's box of building blocks. That atom survived 13.8 billion years without ever breaking. To understand how, picture a child's bin of plastic bricks, the kind that snap together. Hydrogen is the single smallest brick, the original brick, the one every other brick is secretly shaped to click against. In the beginning, the universe poured out an almost endless supply of those tiny bricks and very little else. Stars come along later and do something clever but strangely limited. They take a small handful of the little bricks and press them together into bigger, fancier ones. Carbon, oxygen, iron. Useful, beautiful, rare. But still just a few small bricks pressed together, pulled from an ocean of loose singles. Here is the thing about a truly enormous bin of bricks. Even after you've built a few elaborate models, the overwhelming majority of the bricks are still just sitting there loose, exactly as they came out of the box. Stars have been snapping bricks together for over 13 billion years, and they have barely made a dent in the pile. 13 billion years of industry, and the box is still almost full of the original pieces. Now the math, gently. When a star fuses 4 hydrogen atoms into one helium atom, the helium that comes out weighs very slightly less than the 4 that went in. A tiny sliver of mass simply goes missing. And that missing mass becomes energy, following the most famous equation ever written down. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. That last part, the speed of light multiplied by itself, is an absurdly huge number. Which is exactly why a scrap of vanished mass too small to see releases the staggering energy that makes an entire star blaze. That is the whole secret of sunlight, a slow, controlled disappearance of mass traded for light. But look closely at what fusion does not do. It does not make new hydrogen, it only ever spends it. Fusion is a one-way street. Bricks get combined. They are never uncombined back into fresh hydrogen. And this is the part that rearranges everything. Stars are not the creators of matter. They are its sculptors, and slow, frugal ones at that. The raw material, the actual physical stuff of the universe, was made once, right at the very start, and almost all of it still exists today in its original untouched form. The universe didn't keep on building. It built nearly everything in its first few minutes, and it has spent every single moment since then lightly rearranging a tiny fraction of what it made. If the universe made nearly all its matter in the first few minutes and has barely touched it since, then everywhere you look, at every scale, you should find the same thing. Mostly original, primordial stuff, lightly seasoned with the rare, fussy work of stars. And that is exactly what you find. The same simple recipe, copied faithfully at every magnification. Start at the smallest scale there is, a single hydrogen atom. One proton, one electron, locked in a relationship that has lasted, in some cases, very nearly since time itself began. No moving parts to wear out, nothing in it to age. It does not decay, does not rust, does not tire. It is, in the most literal sense possible, a tiny, unchanged fossil of the newborn universe, sitting right now in the tip of your finger. It has outlasted continents, oceans, whole species, entire galaxies worth of stars, and it shows no sign at all of stopping. Now move up to your own body. By the head count of atoms, you are roughly 2/3 hydrogen, 2/3 primordial, 2/3 older than any star anywhere. The famous stardust, the carbon, the oxygen, the iron, is absolutely real, but it is the minority. It is the seasoning, not the meal. Weigh yourself differently, and the numbers shift. But count the atoms one by one, and hydrogen wins every time, easily. You are a primordial creature wearing a thin coat of stardust. Move up again to a star itself. Even the sun, the great factory of the famous story, is still about 3/4 hydrogen. After 4 billion years of steady burning, our own star has converted only a small fraction of its fuel into anything heavier. The factory, it turns out, is mostly raw material. What we call a furnace is really a vast reservoir with a small fire burning in the middle of it. Most of the sun has never once been near the flame. Now pull all the way back to the whole universe. After 13.8 billion years, after every star that has ever lived and died, the cosmos as a whole is still about 3/4 hydrogen by weight. Every heavy element there is, every planet, every rock, every living body, all of it added together comes to barely a couple of % of the ordinary matter out there. Everything you have ever called solid or precious or rare, gold, stone, bone, blood, is a rounding error set against the hydrogen. The headline of the universe never changed. The verdict comes back the same at every level. The cosmos is overwhelmingly still exactly what it was at the very start. And what is true of the entire universe is true of you, atom for atom. Let it land slowly. First, the romantic story had the proportions backward the whole time. We were told we are made of stardust, and we pictured ourselves as mostly the children of stars, with maybe a little leftover hydrogen for the plumbing. A few rooms of star stuff, we assumed, resting on a foundation of something newer. Wrong on practically every count. It is the exact reverse. You are mostly primordial. The stardust is the trace, the garnish, the late little addition at the end. We got the recipe exactly upside down, and the upside down version is the one that feels true only because it tells the prettier story. Second, that means the largest part of you is not the product of any star's life or death at all. It is the direct product of the universe's first few minutes, a stretch of time shorter than it takes to soft boil an egg. Most of what you are was already finished before there was a single star anywhere to light the sky. You carry inside your own skin the direct, unbroken output of the beginning of everything. Not a copy of it, not a tribute to it, the actual original material, still here, still working, still in you. And third, the one that actually stops you, those hydrogen atoms did not change on the long way to becoming you. They were not transformed or refined or reborn somewhere along the road. They are the same atoms, in the same simple form that existed before the first sunrise anywhere in the cosmos, unchanged through every bit of it, patient far past anything we have words for. So you are not a distant descendant of the early universe. You are the early universe, a small piece of it, briefly gathered up, walking around, looking up at the stars and feeling young. The early universe never really ended. It just learned, in you, to open a pair of eyes and look back at itself. The most ancient thing you will ever encounter isn't out there in the night sky. It's the hand you are holding your phone with right now. It is a strange feeling, isn't it, to learn that the oldest thing you have ever touched is yourself. And it leaves you holding questions that don't come with clean answers. Because if most of your atoms are 13.8 billion years old, then what, exactly, is the young thing here? What is the part of you that was born just a few decades ago? Not the atoms. They are ancient. They were here long before you, and they will drift on long after you are gone. They keep no memory of you and never will. The remembering is yours alone, and it is brief. The young thing is only the arrangement, the pattern, the particular, fleeting way these timeless atoms are holding hands right now to make a person who can sit and wonder about them. For a little while, the oldest stuff there is gets to feel like the newest thing alive. The atoms are the noun. You are the verb. A verb the universe started conjugating a few decades ago and will stop one day, mid-sentence. So maybe you are not really a thing at all. Maybe you are an event. Not a noun the universe quietly owns, but something that briefly happens to it. A brief, exquisite knot tied in material as old as the universe itself, and then one day, quietly untied again, the atoms loosed back out into the world to become rain and rivers and somebody else's morning glass of water, and eventually, perhaps, the cold gas of some star that has not even formed yet. The arrangement is brand new. The material is almost as old as time. You are a temporary spelling of something permanent, which leaves the question this whole picture keeps circling back toward, the one I genuinely cannot put down. If the stuff of you is borrowed and ancient and will all someday be handed back, if you are only the shape it briefly chooses to take, then what is it, really, that you have been calling me this entire time? So tomorrow morning, go back to the kitchen sink, fill the glass again, and hold it up to the window for just 1 second before you drink. Just look at it. Ordinary, clear, completely unremarkable. The most thoroughly disguised ancient artifact you will ever hold in your hands. What you are holding is not really a glass of tap water. It is a glass of the early universe. The hydrogen in it was made when the whole cosmos was 3 minutes old, in a furnace that has been stone cold for 13.8 billion years and will never, ever burn again. That water has been a star's gas cloud, an ancient sea, 1,000 storms. It has been everywhere and worn 100 costumes. And underneath every single one, it stayed the exact same age, almost as old as everything there is. And now it is here, in your hand, on its way to becoming a few more days of you. Tomorrow it might be your blood. Next week, your breath. It doesn't mind in the slightest. It has done far stranger things in far stranger places for longer than you can hold in your mind. Every time you drink, you are drinking something older than the oldest light in the sky. Every breath you take pulls in atoms that drifted through the dark long before the first star was ever lit. You have been quietly breathing the beginning of the universe your entire life. You are not standing beneath an ancient universe, gazing up at it from the outside, small and new and separate from it all. You are built from its oldest pieces. You are a way for the beginning of everything to cup a glass of water and lift it gently to the light. For one swallow, the oldest thing in the whole cosmos gets to taste cold water on a Tuesday morning. That is not nothing. It might be the entire point. You looked up at the stars and you felt young. You were wrong. Most of you is older than every star. And if that thought keeps surfacing every time you reach for a glass of water, good.